Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
It's never too early to set expectations and goals for your child's education. The UA College Savings Plan provides opportunities that can help you reach your educational savings goals. Save in Alaska. Study anywhere. There is more information available by calling 1-888, the number 4, and then Alaska. This message sponsored by the UA College Savings Plan.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, I'm Dave Percy, and thanks again for joining us for another live edition of Alaska Weather. On the satellite imagery out here over the far western Pacific, Kamchatka Peninsula right there, the Sea of Okhotsk and Sakhalin Island, and you can see frontal boundary here right over the far western Bering Sea from the Aleutians being directed northward with a jet right into the Russian Far East. Another development back out here, an associated front, a lot of moisture coming northward, but that too is going to stay or move off to the northeast and not really push into the Bering too much at all. On the GOES imagery, we've got a lot of moisture here starting out early this morning or late last night. Some of that just reaching up to the Kenai Peninsula, extending right back across Kodiak Island and putting this loop into motion. You can see the low center down in here making some headway up to the north, and heaviest rainfall here, Kodiak Island area picked up about 7/10 of an inch in the 24-hour period ending at 3 p.m. this afternoon, and much lighter amounts back to the west. Of course, Dutch Harbor right on the edge of the moisture band there, just 0.05 of an inch, Cold Bay about 1/100 of an inch, but for sure heavier amounts, say from Sandpoint on up the upslope areas of the Aleutian Range in the peninsula, and snow coming into the Dillingham, Togiak areas as well as Cape Newnham. They had some moderate snow at times this afternoon, and as this moisture overrunning the colder air back here to the west-southwest, that's rapidly spreading some flurries, light snow conditions up across the deltas. That's going to continue overnight tonight and push all the way up to Kotzebue Sound, probably the northwest coast, by tomorrow sometime. Otherwise, up here to the north, another trough coming down from the northwest there. Cut across Barrow this afternoon. That swung the winds around from light variable to northeast as that passed through. Just a little bit of light snow and some clouds with that. The heavier action back here with the blowing snow there along the Mackenzie River Delta coastline. Not bad over the interior here, but a little bit more gradient here on the chart today. So some areas picking up some pretty brisk easterly winds coming around this area of high pressure that's centered up there to the north along the Arctic coast. Indian Mountain seeing gusts of 30-35 miles an hour. That blowing right out into the Golovin area, and Unalakleet seeing some pretty gusty winds as well. And gradient here again over the eastern Alaska Range, so Delta Junction, you can gust up to 40-45 miles an hour. That blowing right down the Tanana Valley there, or along the Tanana River to say Nenana, getting some pretty good wind gusts as well in the 30-35 mile an hour range, and probably Healy as well. Of course, down to the south, less gradient, lighter winds, but clouds spreading in ahead of this warm front that's lifting northward. So as that passed Homer, the temperature jumped up into the lower 40s this afternoon. 42 degrees was the warmest location in the state at Homer. And another nice clear day there over the southeast coast with those northeast winds still gale force winds through Lynn Canal down into Stevens Passage there. Lighter to the south with less gradient, but still a good amount of sunshine here all the way up to about Yakutat, and then you start picking the clouds up here, Cordova and the North Gulf Coast areas, and warmer air again spreading over. So the rain and snow that started out here over the Alaska Peninsula has become all rain this afternoon. In fact, on the lee side of the peninsula, it stopped altogether. But again, some moisture will continue to work up to the north, and not too bad here over the Aleutians. The winds coming around from the northeast, about 15 to 30, 35 miles an hour. And then this front, quite weak, just some flurries or light snow with that, and the colder air back towards Shemya, and we'll probably stay back in that area. On the tonight's forecast, there's that next storm pushing up to the north there. The original front just dissipates out, gets caught in this northerly flow, and is out of the picture. And you can see the moisture now spreading up along the Delta coastline up to near St. Lawrence Island for some possible flurries later tonight, with the clouds advancing up across the Seward Peninsula and toward Kotzebue Sound. It stays wet with rain, possibly heavy at times here from Kodiak Island back down the Alaska Peninsula. Gusty winds as well, anywhere up to 40 miles an hour from the east-northeast, but lighter winds here with the front now lifting northward of the peninsula and the main low center hanging back to the south. So winds won't be all that brisk there across the peninsula, Falls Pass, Cold Bay, and those areas, even Sand Point. Could be a little bit of light moisture continuing, about like we saw today, mostly to the south, some flurries or rain mixed with snow, but all very light down here, southern Cook Inlet areas, and light also here across the southwest interior. It stays clear and occasionally breezy over the interior areas, just some variable clouds around, but mostly clear, and clear skies, breezy conditions, gusty winds there in areas, especially on the inside waters coming through the passes there over the southeast coast, with the strongest winds continuing up through Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, and over the central areas there with a 1,052 millibar high there over the Arctic, and then the lower pressure here down over the, a little bit lower down toward Queen Charlotte Islands. That'll keep the winds blowing pretty good, keep skies clear and the fog away. Then for tomorrow, we'll see this whole system kind of backs to the west a little bit. The trough rotates westward just on the north side of the peninsula and the eastern Aleutians, but look for IFR flying conditions here for Unalaska, right back up the Alaska Peninsula there, especially on the Pacific side here, where the southeast flow continues to feed moisture in up along that frontal boundary ahead of another warm front that develops here and keeps the rain going, and then they'll tend to cut off here by the time you get up to northern Bristol Bay, and then this moisture just slips right up to the north again tonight and tomorrow. Probably see some light snow up across much of Kotzebue Sound up to Kivalina, and then it'll probably cut off there on the Arctic coast. Another nice day up there. Looks like VFR conditions for most of the stretch. VFR all through the interior. Looking at probably a little less wind in those windier areas than what we over what we saw today, but the eastern Alaska range still a little brisk. Delta Junction will probably keep the wind. Maybe it'll drop back a little bit. You won't lose it altogether. It stays windy here over the southeast coast, about like today, but as the day wears on, the gradient's starting to switch around and these high centers beginning to weaken. These will probably be their values early in the day, and they'll probably drop under 1,050 millibars on both centers by tomorrow afternoon. But again, wet conditions all the way out. Looks like rain to about Atka, and then high pressure makes for some pretty nice conditions out here, and that's going to direct all that storminess right up into the Russian Far East. Outlook for Wednesday. Now we're going to watch an upper level trough drop down from the north, and this dashed line here signifies the position of that trough, and along that will be increasing clouds and chances of snow. And probably by the afternoon hours we'll be seeing some light snow from the mid-Tanana Valley areas right down through the Kuskokwim Valley into northern Bristol Bay, and then up to about the Alaska Range as it moves into that position. And then some moisture out here over the Gulf of Alaska could result in a few scattered snow showers, but that should stay mostly off the coast. But look at or watch for the clouds to come inland, at least up to about Cordova and over much of Prince William Sound. But up to the north, staying clear, strong high pressure in control here, although weakening high pressure. It's still over 1,040 millibars on all those centers, but a lot less gradient here. Now you have high pressure out over the Gulf of Alaska and the Northeast Pacific, so the gradient a lot less, so you'll see a definite drop off in those winds, especially over the northern areas where it's been so windy the last several days. Continued east-southeast flow will keep it cloudy and occasionally damp here, but nothing too heavy. Just look for the lower flying conditions to persist there along the Pacific side of the Alaska Peninsula all the way from southwest Kodiak Island. And then the farther west you get, this system actually pulling back to the west and down to the south. So we've got easterly flow across the Bering Sea, but this front remaining close enough to keep those east winds in the 15 to 30 mile per hour range with wet conditions from probably Unalaska, definitely Nikolsky, out across Adak and Atka. And temperatures this afternoon, we're mostly in the mid to upper 30s here over the southeast coast. Some cooler areas. Petersburg at about 30 degrees, while Juneau had 37. And 37 also there at Middleton Island, but Cordova came in with 30 degrees. And you can see where the warm front position is between Homer and Kenai. Homer 42, and similar temperatures down across Kodiak Island in toward Bristol Bay, but north of the front, 29 at Kenai, 25 Anchorage, with 20s up into the Susitna Valley. One below over at Gulkana, up in the Tanana Valley there. That's, I think, Nanano at 31 degrees, while Fairbanks had 8, 17 at Delta Junction, and a 3 below over at Eagle, while Fort Yukon, 9 below, but up to 21 over there at Bettles, 5 above at Anatuvik, while Arctic Village had 0, and temperatures on the Arctic coast 0 to 10 degrees here over the eastern and central areas, and then into the teens back over the far western portions, teens and 20s here over the northwest part of the state, and 24 at Nome, same thing at St. Michael, Amonic 21, then you get up to 27 down toward Makoriak, 30 degrees in Bethel with an 18 at Aniak there. Sparravon 32, but Sleepmute just 21 degrees. Even chillier at McGrath with 16, and that's Galena at 17. For the Pribilofs, upper 20s here over this Bering Sea, but temperatures ranging from 32 out at Shimia, 37 at Atka, 38 on Alaska, and then upper 30s and lower 40s up across Bristol Bay. Lows tonight staying in the 30s out here over the Aleutians, and mostly in the mid to upper 30s, so above freezing from Kodiak Island there. Again, with that mild southeast wind flow, the clouds and rain staying well above freezing, some cases near 40. Below 0 up over the northeast part of the state, as low as 20 to 25 below. And we'll see in the teens and 20s for the Panhandle. Highs for tomorrow, low below 0 up over the northeast, otherwise about the same along the Arctic coast. Mildest down here over the southwest part of the state, all the way to Cold Bay there. No change really for the Aleutians. Flying weather, we've got marginal VFR over Kodiak Island tomorrow, some of that up to the Kenai Peninsula, into Kamishak Bay, IFR from Shelikof Strait along the southern part of the peninsula, and then spreading into the southeast Bering Sea here up to the Pribilofs, and some of that might work up to the coastline there into western Togiak Bay, but offshore flow is going to kind of keep it along or off the coast here with some marginal stuff possibly up to St. Lawrence Island. IFR could possibly show up around the northwest capes there, really from through the Bering Strait on up to Cape Lisbarn. Then good VFR through this area, and marginal VFR possibly affecting the Shimia area. Passes for Anatuvik looks open on either approach, north-south entrance. Adigan, same forecast, pretty good VFR day coming up for Lake Clark and Merrill. Again, just a slight chance conditions could become marginal at times on the eastern entrance, but it's just a risk at that. Merrill, though, will be good VFR on either side. Rainy, another VFR day, as well as windy. Eastern Alaska Range passes, both Isabel and Mentasta will remain open, and Tanita, good VFR. Portage, again, on that eastern side with the easterly wind flow, will make this entrance there vulnerable to being a little bit lower, but may stay VFR on both sides throughout the day. Chilkoot and White, good VFR once again. Freezing levels showing the warmer air coming northward, currently coming northward, will continue to advance. By late tonight, early tomorrow morning, you should see 2,000 feet here up to about this position, definitely 4,000 feet in across the Alaska Peninsula, and at the surface right along the coastline, and then just off the coast of the Panhandle on down to the southeast. Cooler air in the central Bering Sea, and another big push of warm air way out to the west, though, coming across the western Bering and the Aleutians. And icing threats, all that moisture coming up, maybe some moderate icing below about 10,000 feet or so here along the southwest coast and also along the peninsula. and on down into the eastern Aleutian areas. Otherwise, just a chance of some icing there across Kodiak Island. It's really areas of icing possible in the shaded zones here. Nothing either side will occur at all. And looking at the upper wind flow chart, northwest winds here, loft tomorrow, 50 to 70 knots, keeping that frontal boundary stuck out here. Actually, is going to shear it all down to the southeast, and then another development will come up more into this position, association with this low to the southwest. But upper level high pressure now beginning to move eastward and break down. It'll slide southeastward as this ridge begins to take over here, and then we'll be watching for something up here to drop down into the interior later on in the week. 9,000 feet, we're looking pretty strong here, 40 to 50 knots southeasterlies. Actually, this branch coming up, linking up with this branch coming across the Gulf of Alaska. So where they converge there, that's where you'll see the wind speeds the strongest, again in that 40 to 50 knot range. And 3,000 feet, same pattern, 55 knots here would be the strongest wind zone there. Even still a little breezy over the interior. And northerlies up to 45 in the central Aleutians. Severe possible here, mostly below the 9,000 foot level, Kodiak Island across the peninsula, maybe northern Bristol Bay, with moderate chop again continuing along the southeast coast. And after hangar flying, I'll be back with the boating forecasts.
Good evening. I'm Harry Keeling on behalf of the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and Alaska Public Media. Welcome back to Hangar Flying. And tonight we're going to welcome back Mark Barker. Mark, I've known for many years. He's a well-respected CFI, both fixed wing and rotor wing. And he's also the chief pilot to Tenalian. Mark, welcome back.
Thank you.
So let's pick it up where we left off. We were talking about some of the transfers, some of the things that fixed wing pilots need to learn to fly a helicopter, and some of the requirements to fly a helicopter well. So let's talk about a helicopter rating. What does it take to get a helicopter rating?
Well, of course, it's like much like an airplane. In fact, I think the private, and this I guess shows my old guy thing, I got to remember all of the particulars of it. But to get your private to start from the very beginning, it's virtually the same. Approximately, I think the regs minimum is 40 hours to get your private rating. And like most of us, we all got it, at 50 or 55 or so. We do a number of people that do add-on ratings. So they have their private airplane rating, and now they want to do an add-on, either commercial or private rating. And the regs keep changing on that a little bit. I believe, and I could be wrong here, but I believe if you have a private rating, it's going to be about 30 hours for private helicopter add-on rating.
Can you just generalize what the cost for flying hour is, or what a person could expect to pay to get a rating?
Well, for example, down at our company at Tenalian, we have a R22, and that's our primary instruction machine, and we charge $290 an hour for that machine, and that includes the flight instructor. It's a little cheaper when you're accomplishing your solo things. Like as an airplane pilot, you have to go out solo and do those solo elements, but it's about $290 an hour for dual.
Now, if someone, and you mentioned, I think, earlier that a number of pilots who are, probably successful in their career, in their life, are moving into helicopters. If you got your private license and you went out and you bought an R22, what does the insurance company say?
I don't know about that because, of course, my whole insurance realm is from a commercial side of it. I know from our side of it, as a commercial operator running a flight school, the cost of the insurance is significant. And I would guess, that's a great question, I would guess that it would probably be high because you're going to be a low-time insurance person. But I know for some of my private owners, as long as I was there in the machine with them, because I have helicopter time, it helped their insurance considerably.
Well, let me ask you differently. If I had a private license, but I just had the 40 hours or 50 hours or whatever, Could I rent an R-22 from you?
Yeah, we're set up to do that. You need to come down and get training from us. Not a full license, obviously, but we want to make sure you know how to drive the machine around, and you're going to fly safe, and your flying is up to Canadian standards, and I think you can do that with other flight schools here in town also. But yeah, you can rent from us.
Good. Let's talk a little bit about aviation safety. You made a really good point about you've seen Cubs crash in places you wouldn't fly a helicopter.
Yeah, I was telling you a couple of stories of places. We were talking off air about a couple of events I've gone to. Some of the people will give us a call to go out and rescue their cub or bring them back or help bolt them together so that they can get them out. And I can remember a number of them, more than 5. I would fly out there in the helicopter and I'd come upon the crash with the owner with me in the helicopter, and I have to search around and find and of course it's always a hunting thing or a fishing thing, trying to stuff yourself into some place you maybe not should be. And I've been to a number of them where when I circled around the aircraft, I'm thinking to myself, what in the world? I'm having to look around for a place to land this helicopter. And here a guy's made a conscious decision of, I think I can land here.
Okay, we're about out of time. One word of advice on flying in Alaska? What would that be?
Check the weather. Make sure you know where you're going and you've been there before. And I'm a huge proponent of the Medallion Foundation and flying their simulators.
Great. Mark, thanks for being on the
Thank
program.
you.
Really appreciate your words of wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed tonight's program and you enjoy all of our programs and the other things that the Safety Foundation brings you, like our seminars, newsletters, and whatnot. But we're member driven. If you haven't renewed for 2014, please go on our website and do that. And also, if you haven't filed your PFD, you need to get on that. And when you're at it, you can go to Pick, Click, and Give. Select the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and give us a generous donation. It's the only way we're able to survive. We're totally member driven, and the entire organization and the board of directors, of course, is unpaid, but we do need some finances to keep programs like this going and the other products that we put together for you. Our main goal is very simple. It's aviation safety. So until next week, I would ask you to fly safe.
Welcome back. Well, not a lot of change here along the southeast coast. Sunny and cool with gusty winds, especially over the northern inside waters. Still breezy down to the south, but more channeled and variable. And about 15 to 20 from the east-northeast out along the coastline there. And still some higher gusts coming out of the bays. Then for Wednesday, things should drop off noticeably here, especially over the central and northern inside water areas. Light northeast breezes down to the south and just 10 to 15 knots, mostly from the northeast out along the coast. For the North Gulf Coast, easterlies 15, increasing to 20 knots here over the western Gulf, and northeast 15, Prince William Sound. Northeast wind, or barely a wind here from Cook Inlet, right down into Shelikof Strait, where it picks up to about 20 knots. Still looking at some small craft advisories here down on the southern part of Kodiak Island, definitely south of the Chiniak-Marmot Bay areas. And then those become light variable across all around the island tomorrow, or for Wednesday. Very light west winds here across the Barren Islands turn southwest, light for the North Gulf Coast, light variable winds for Prince William Sound, and very light winds here even over Cook Inlet. For Bristol Bay, small craft advisories tomorrow for those east winds, and could see some gales, minimum gales at times tomorrow southwest of Kodiak, but winds coming down to 20 knots for the peninsula. And then even lighter winds here for Wednesday, down to 15 knots from Sitkinak, 20 knots from about Sandpoint to Cape Sarachev. Same thing on the Bering Sea side, really light winds now for Bristol Bay under high pressure. For the Arctic coast, light variable winds to southwest, but really no speed at all here. Could pick up to 15 knots on the western coast, and then southerlies at about 10 from the western Capes here down across the Chukchi Sea. And for the Aleutians tomorrow, northeasterlies up to 20 knots out here over the western portions, and we'll pick up some small craft advisory northeasterlies for the central Aleutians, and then should be right out of the east here for Wednesday for the Fox Islands and Dutch Harbor and those areas. And going to the Bering Sea, light variable winds, strong high pressure settling in over St. Lawrence Island and even the northern Bering, just 10 to 15 knot northeasterlies up in this area. A little more gradient, east up to 25 knots there. Take a turn to the northeast and push down across the Pribilof Islands. For the Wednesday outlook, those winds drop off here, still easterly, but 5 to 10 knots along the southwest coast. St. Paul, about 20 knots. St. George could be more in a small craft advisory range there, say 25 knots or so, but light winds, that high kind of slipping eastward a little bit there, so southwesterlies, but only 10 knots there for St. Lawrence Island. Up along the Arctic coast, well, there's tomorrow's forecast for the Arctic coast, light variable winds, and again, 10 knots for tomorrow. And then for Wednesday, here's a big increase there coming up, southerlies, 30 knots possible, southwest 25 on the western area, and then west-southwest, anywhere from 15, probably looking at possibly 25 knots over toward Kaktovik. Otherwise, the Chukchi Sea here with that system sliding in from the northwest. Again, that's what's going to kick these winds up possibly Wednesday afternoon. For tonight, just look for an increase in the clouds here along the west coast with chances of snow there in the shaded areas becomes mixed over just about all of Bristol Bay, or just plain rain out to Kodiak Island, rain all the way down to the eastern Aleutians, and those gusty southeast winds here in advance of the front. Then they pick up again from the northeast and stay on the gusty side here to about Nikolsky. No change over the southeast coast and no change over the interior. Still looking at some areas of gusty winds, especially in the higher elevations. And then that slackens off a little bit tomorrow. Still have strong high pressure early on, but this will gradually weaken throughout the afternoon. So look for a general downward trend of those winds along the southeast coast, and then a little bit of snow here in the southwest. Have a great evening and good night.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
You can tell a lot about a company by where it invests. At ConocoPhillips, we're investing in Arctic science and engineering at the University of Alaska Anchorage. And we're supporting today's students and tomorrow's engineers at UAF. In fact, today, more than 100 of our employees are University of Alaska graduates, and our future is in their hands. We happen to think that's a pretty good investment. ConocoPhillips, Alaska's oil and gas company.